Hey, this is Robert from Infinite Realms. Welcome, and hold on to your butts because this time I am reviewing Mr. Sinister from the animated line. So, of course, you can see the packaging. This is a big one. Looks like a double VHS set, kind of like Titanic was when it came out on VHS. So, yeah, it's containing a bigger figure. Hey, so let's crack it open and. Son of a bitch, not again. Yeah, I know, that joke's getting old. I need to let it go. Okay, promise, last time I do, I don't know that I'm going to buy any more of this line. I don't like that costume of jeans. I've never liked that costume of jeans, ever. So, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not a big fan of Jubilee. That Storm, the cell shading, I really hate the way it's looks on that figure, so I'm not going to buy it. I already got Storm anyway, so it's not a big deal. Morph is the one that I may bend on. I don't know. Could bend on that one, and there was a Mystique shown that I may bend on. So, you know, might be not be done with this. Might be. I don't know. But Sinister, reason I bought it, I don't have a Sinister. I need a Sinister. Honestly, the secondhand market for Sinister is pretty tough, so I just said, hey, I get the animated one. And knowing up front that I'm going to have an issue with this cell shading. So, one thing I found out while I was doing pictures and stuff, I turned my lights off, and you can't even really see the cell shading with the lights off. It's kind of weird. I mean, low light, it really doesn't show. So, magically, like, boop. See, it's not so bad. I mean, so maybe if you got a not quite so well lit area of your displays, you could do that. I don't know. The cell shading with all the lights on and everything, the cell shading is really ugly. It's just all over the place. I mean, most of the cell shaded figures at least make a little bit of sense. This one is more obvious and more just everywhere. I mean, it's just, what the hell are you doing? I mean, yeah, and now this is a bigger figure than Wolverine, which I don't know why, with him being, I mean, he is almost, I need to do a comparison still, but he looks to be almost the size of, some of the bigger figures that go for much higher. I mean, the box is almost twice as big, which could explain why he has no accessories, but yeah, we'll kind of wonder why the price point's the same. That's what I'm getting at. The cape is really cool. I'm sure you've seen it a million times. I'll show it to you again. There's 2 layers to it, which makes it, have some depth. I really like that. And then, the cape kind of helps him stand too. So you got to be careful, because sometimes if you get the cape in the wrong spot, it's knocking forward. I did notice a couple of reviews I've seen of this figure did note that the neck is different, but everything else is redone from the previous Mr. Sinister. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now, with Mr. Sinister, I just turned into Booker T there, Sinister, Mr. Sinister. One of the things, I never really liked the direction his character took after Chris Claremont left the X-Men. And years later we found out, there was a plan for him. And it actually made a whole lot of sense. When you get down to it, because Mr. Sinister is an odd character in an odd way, and he always seemed to come back from everything. How many times did he appear to be dead and come back? I mean, and that happened with the Marauders too, although that could be explained easily. But, what was the deal with Mr. Sinister? And as it turned out, the plan was that Mr. Sinister was actually a kid Cyclops knew in the orphanage. And Sinister himself was a mental projection from that kid. He could, basically make his mutant power was going to be, he could make solid objects from his thoughts. And he could make people from his thoughts. And that's what he did. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then you start thinking, Mr. Sinister, what a stupid name. And you're like, wait, now that name makes sense. Because it's coming from a kid who's been in a coma. I should have also pointed out that, the kid had been in a coma since he was like 12. So in essence, he had had no life experience since 12 years old. This is coming from a 12-year-old kid. And then all of a sudden, this character made so much sense. Because it's like, yeah, this is what a 12-year-old kid would come up with. Arch nemesis, Mr. Sinister. Yeah, a kid would think like that. A 12-year-old, I could see a 12-year-old thinking like that. And that's why he seemed to also have unlimited power, seemed to be invincible to everything. There was a reason why he was vulnerable to Cyclops' eye blasts, and I never got... That part of the story never got revealed, as far as I'm aware, but there was supposed to be a reason. And I always found that to be really fascinating, and that made me kind of like the character again, because, I'm just a geneticist from the 1900s, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of a boring origin. But yeah, finding out that Sinister was supposed to be this mental projection from a kid in a coma was cool. I loved it. And really wish we could have seen that, because that would have been something phenomenal, I think. That would have been another one of those big Chris Claremont big stories. And then Jim Lee messed it up. I digress a little bit. Anyway, they screwed up Magneto, they screwed up Sinister, they screwed up a lot of stuff that you find out later when you read interviews with Chris Claremont, and he's like, well, what were you going to do? I had this on mine, I had this in mind, I had this in mind, I had this in mind. I had a whole lot of things in mind, Anyway, I do like the figure overall, except for the cell shading. That's what kills it for me. Otherwise, he looks like he did in the animated series. It does look good otherwise. I know I've seen things about removing the cell shading. I just don't like having to buy a figure and then fix it. That, this is not a craft project for me. This is a collection. I will probably keep him in a low-lit area just to, make the cell shading not appear so bad. I don't hate him, but, I don't love him either for that reason. I don't plan on buying any more Sinisters after this. Just need one Sinister, right? I don't get people who buy every version of every figure. I just don't. But this was a character I felt I needed in my collection, so I grabbed him. And, despite... If it wasn't for cell shading, I would probably give it 4.5 stars. But as with the cell shading, I got to go 3.5. The cell shading does kill an otherwise great figure. That's it right there. I may even go as low as 3 stars with that, because it's really, it's still not the worst, but it's not good. Now, here he is with Cyclops, of course, because they are so irrevocably linked. At least they're still linked in the history they had too, so, there's that. I can't imagine, though, if they knew that story was going to, if any ideas of that story was happening, that they wouldn't at least go with that a little bit, lean into it some more. So maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe there weren't notes. And here's Sinister Wolverine, and I'm just throwing armored Spider-Man in there just for fun. And there you go. You get to see Mr. Sinister along with a few figures for comparison. Like I said, he's pretty tall and bigger than most of the figures, but still, the same price point. Alright, that's my review of Mr. Sinister. Don't forget to like and subscribe.